Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Fellow citizens, following the sequence of events, Uganda seems to be at political crossroads.
I'm not a servant of anybody.
Madam, I know the law.
As such, Alternative Digital brings you the Interface Show with retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besuje.
Let's keep on the same page on Alternative Digitalk,
As he gives you the alternatives on the transition question, rule of law, human rights and freedom, youth inclusion in governance, economic stagnation, as he confirms.
I'll be always here Saturday from 10 a.m. in the morning. Be there.
Don't miss the live discussion on the Alternative Uganda, Digitalk TV Facebook pages, and the Alternative Uganda YouTube channel.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Good morning to you, our viewers out there. You're most welcome for this show. I am Katutu Musime hosting Tekachi on the Alternative Digitalk, streaming live on our Facebook pages, the Alternative Uganda and Digitalk TV. You're most welcome for this show. On the 15th day of November, 2021. And I take this opportunity to welcome you all. In this show, we talk about different issues that affect people differently and on different aspects that concern the matters of the law, peace and order of this country. And today I will start with giving you a legal alert about some judgment or some holding from the Court of Appeal on a matter that includes the powers of attorney. And in this case of Byolina Ronald versus Zirimenya Jime Mary Francis Waswa and the Registrar of Titles. Earlier on this week, the Court of Appeal held that a power of attorney terminates upon the death of the principal, and an agent can only act for a living person. So if somebody gives you the powers of attorney, the first legal requirement is for you to register that power of attorney under the registration of documents at URSB. Then that power of attorney can only be legal and valid to the time when the person, the donor of the powers of attorney, is still living. So when he or she dies, then the powers of attorney also terminates and they lose value. So that one you should know. And the same matter being in reference to what we are going to discuss that relates to matters of land, the rights, the disputes, and what can be done to actually resolve these disputes. I bring to you Councillor Ronald Vuni, who is here with us today in our studios to discuss the same, and I hope that this will be an interactive and an educative show. So now let me give him this opportunity. Mr. Ronald, you can say hello to our viewers and then we can start our discussion.
Yes, thank you, my brother, Mr. Kato. And our viewers, thank you so much for engaging with you at such an opportune time. I'm awaiting to engage with you and we'll learn more.
You can talk about yourself briefly, Ronald, what you do, and then you can start from there.
I am a lawyer. I should actually say with pride that you're also my classmate. Okay, and I'm also a lecturer at the Kampala International University and then King Caesar University. Yes. But we also do civil society activities, enlightening the masses, talking about the law and the problems basically affecting society, I'm also engaged in other aspects of basically volunteering and educating the society about basic rights.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for the good work, and you're most welcome on this show, Tekachi, where we talk about different laws. And today specifically we shall be talking about the land rights of individuals to start with. Then when we look at their rights, we look at the disputes that arise when somebody's rights actually are misused or people are not actually responding to what should be done in regards to those rights. And then after on, we shall look at the solutions as we wind up with the show. So Mr. Ronald, now, the other time we had the gentleman here who took us through the tenure systems and basic land laws and what people should consider and know about land. Now specifically today, I want us to start with the land rights of individuals, and you will help us and break for the viewers out there what we mean when we talk about land rights. And specifically, maybe you can go further and talk about the different rights of individuals who own land. Or actually, there are people who own it, people who occupy, and people who use the same land. And we can break it to our viewers out there so that they can get informed about such rights.
Well, yeah, thank you. Now, when we talk about rights, we don't have a codified specific right, as we say. But just as you have a right on property, land is property.
Yes.
So you find that the same right you are accorded by the state. Actually, having land is a right, because the Constitution itself guarantees that you should the power to own land. Land in Uganda is owned by of course, by the citizens, but vested in the government. Now, you find that in so doing, we can have rights which I may categorize in two aspects. One, rights that are interpersonal.
Okay.
For instance, me and you, I have bought my land. You might be my neighbor. You find that you also own land in neighborhood. So in such circumstances, I may do things that may interfere with your enjoyment. There's what we call quiet possession and quiet enjoyment of land. Right. Basically, you have a right to enjoy your land and you buy it.
So when we talk about quiet possession, what exactly are we looking about?
That is basically exclusive ownership.
So you must own it exclusively without interference.
Yes, when I buy my land, a plot.
Yes.
Of course, land and a plot might be, but let me use it basically for that simple understanding. If I buy my plot and you are my neighbor, so you find that I may sometimes not enjoy aspects of too much noise from you.
Okay.
That's right. Now, there is, of course, when you go deep into law, you realize that we have a law which we call a nuisance.
Yes. So
you find that you may be sometimes making too much noise for me, and it may affect me. And there is too much case law on that, which basically curtails people from interfering with people's rights. So as you're enjoying your right in owning your land, then your neighbor also must be accorded you that right to enjoy his. So you should balance. There must be mutual respect for one another.
So one shouldn't interfere with somebody's right also enjoy staying on his land. Yes.
So you find that my right, a right on this side might be an obligation on the other side.
A duty on the other side.
A duty on the other side. That much as I'm owning land, I have a duty not to disrespect the other one.
The same thing, using his part of the land.
Yes. That's one aspect of interpersonal ownership and the rights basically. Then we also have rights that I may refer to as being vertical. You know, when a state is giving laws, these laws must be binding the subjects. Now, I may use informally that word vertical binding, that a state may sometimes take over your land.
Okay.
Me and you understand far better that assuming I've bought my land, I wake up this morning, I have my money, I buy land, assuming this part, I just come and buy this, and you find that land has minerals underneath it. Now the government has the right to take over that land.
So you mean me who owns the land, the surface of the land and above, I cannot own the minerals? That's what you're trying to explain to the viewer.
No, whatever is in land and fixed, of course, amounts to land.
Yes, it amounts to land.
Both underneath and up
and above.
Air. And air. Of course, some limit of air, not beyond the limits.
Beyond, yeah.
Now, you find that when minerals are found underneath the land, automatically it vests in the government.
Okay.
And the reason for this is simple, that these minerals are not owned by a specific individual. they must be used by government for purposes of generating tax, and then it benefits the entire Ugandan and the entire community and the country. I believe you've seen examples where oil has been discovered and our brothers in the oil corridor
and the Hoima.
Yes, were claiming that they deserve a specific treatment, but of course government was of the view that of course you deserve it, but also other Ugandans equally have the same right.
Have a share.
Yes, all that. So that's one aspect, one limb. The other limb is when the government wants to acquire this land for public use. For instance, construction of hospitals, construction of roads, public utilities. It can take over this land.
Things that benefit the entire public, not specifically an individual.
Exactly. So you find that government can take over this land. But of course, that it does not just wake up one morning and say,
get out of this land because we want to use it for public use.
Yes, Ronald, we have realized that your land is good for a road or for a hospital. Please leave. No. It must go through specific requirements of adequately compensating, not only compensating, but adequate compensation.
So the compensation must be sufficient, you know, to fit the value of the land.
Exactly. Now, of course, the measurement of adequate varies, because it usually depends on the government value has to first of all value this land, then it gets a specific amount then they pay you or compensate you based on the value that has been valued by the chief government valuer.
Okay.
So those are the two aspects of land rights we are going to discuss, and they are broad, but of course we shall be handling.
We shall break them into the simple terms for our understanding of the viewers out there, because we must understand that most of the terms used in land, while we are dealing with land, they are technical. The language used specifically is more technical, and we find a very big problem to our viewers out there, maybe who understand a few things about it or who have a little knowledge that concern the same. Now, starting with quite enjoyment and the rights of an individual. I have bought land from Ronald. I have followed the due diligence and I own this property, and I actually am staying on the same property. What is required of me as the rights you are talking about of right possession first, and then I want to use my land in my own way to benefit me, because I guess from the beginning there is a reason why I bought this land. So what are those of the basic rights that I should consider while using the same land?
Now, delving a little back into the land tenure systems that you've previously talked about, I will specifically, of course, when we talk about freehold, when we talk about customary, those ones will not focus on them so much. Basically, if you focus like where we are here, you find that most of the land around is mile.
Is mile land.
And the mile is in two categories, private and official. Now, private mile, you can dispose it perpetually to your successors. They can own it. If I bought land today, you find that I can register it and I can bequeath it. I can gift it. I can give it to my children. I can give it to anyone I wish. Now, for purposes of the official mile, that's not applicable. You heard of Chapa Mongalo.
Chapa Mongalo, yes. That was very common here.
Yes. Now, Chapa Mongalo is an informal aspect of a lease that you use this land for a specific period and it is subject to renewal.
So what you're talking about is that these people who got that Chapa Mongalo actually got lease on the land they own.
I don't want to call it lease per se, but informally it is a kind of a lease because it has almost the same tenants.
Categorized in the same tenants of leasehold.
Yes. Because one of the tenets of lease is that you're given a lease at a specific period.
Specific period, and you pay some amount.
Yes, and it expires.
And it expires.
And it's expired, you have to renew. So you can't even sell it to your successor, you can't sell it to anyone.
You only sublease actually.
Yes. Now for private, it has some concept of perpetual ownership. Once you buy it, it's yours.
It is yours fully and
you register it in your names. Can you register in your children's name?
You can gift it away.
You can gift it
sell
away.
Again. You can
yes.
Deal with it like the way I own this phone.
Yes, exactly. So when you buy land, whatever the case might be, let me use this aspect of private mile or freehold. When you buy one of those two, you find that one of the things is that it may not have a title. Some people buy vibanjas. I think you understand vibanjas.
Yes, the chibanja holders.
Yes.
And we shall look into that aspect as well at some time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you have your chibanja,
a chibanja holder vis-a-vis a person who holds the title, the entire title. Yeah.
Yes. So you may have your chibanja on someone's land. Now, this chibanja is not registered.
Yes.
You are simply enjoying what we have, what we call a equitable interest.
That are not registered.
Not registered. But of course, the law recognizes an equitable chibanja holder. And you've had our president talking about these chibanja holders not to be evicted.
Yes, anyhow.
And, many policies that have come up to protect these chibanja holders. You actually find sometimes these chibanja holders, they are almost equated to a landowner. They have rights.
They have the same rights as the person who owns the land.
Yes. Now, but the other aspect legally is that, of course, a chibanja owner, you have to, if you have your chibanja, you must fight hard to make sure that you register it for you to have some of these perpetual rights. Unless the owner of the land itself says, maybe I am leasing it to you. But if you've bought a chibanja, it would be so prudent that you get a title. You can subdivide this land. It's called mutation, basically.
Yeah.
You mutate it. You get
your share and then have it registered.
Yes, register it. Then own your land. So that at the end of that day, when you have reached an extent of selling it off, or you have no one will disturb it, that's your property. You will die with it. You can give it, it can be inherited. But the problem you find with usually chibanja holders, some people, when they buy, some of them buy, and it's a very important note that in most cases, average land to be registered must be 50 by 100. Yeah, that's I think what our people need to understand. 11 decimals.
So if we have those people who have less than 11 decimals, who have 40 by 40, 20 by 30, and that's the plot they own. So that one cannot be registered.
That one can't be registered.
So you have to own that land in the perspective of the chibanja holder.
Yes.
Until you die.
You're just a chibanja holder until you die. You can't register such small pieces of land.
I guess our viewers out there have got something that is interesting and maybe they couldn't have known about it. To register your land, it must be 50 by 100. Or if you convert it into decimals, it must be 11 decimals and above. Then below that one, it is not acceptable and it cannot be registered. So, sorry.
And when we mean registration, we don't mean registering at LC1 or...
Some people will buy their book, what are they called, these small books, and then they will write and they say, I have registered my land. Yes,
I have registered my land and it is mine.
Yeah.
That's not what we mean. We mean that you go to the land office, either the zone office, or if it is within Kampala, of course, Wakiso, you go to Wakiso. If it is within Kampala, you can go to Kampala. The Ministry of Lands, and then they register. Of course, there's due process that follows. You apply, and then all those modalities, then you pay the required fees, then they register your land, and you're given a title in your name. That's what we call registration. Not this one of LCs, knowing that so and so.
And that's the end of the story.
Yes. And the purpose of registering this land is to avoid fraud. You see, fraud is growing every day. You find I have bought a chibanja, I have not registered it. And this owner needs money.
Yes.
And some of these owners of land are not trustworthy because of money and the
money issues. And
so the person might end up selling this land to 2 or more people. And all of them keep buying this land because they have investigated that this is a chibanja, the title is in one name. So they just say, okay, fine, since we have land here, let me buy. And because most people think land is actually it's an investment, because people's lives depend on land, agriculture now is one of them. Of course, you can't farm on such a small piece, but you really need to know to rent. That's one of the aspects. So you find that people so much want to own land. And owning that land, they may not inquire so much. We have had scenarios where people first buy land. When they buy land,
and that's when they go to figure out who owned this land before, how big is this land, so they don't always follow the modalities from the beginning.
Yes, but it would be prudent that before you buy land, there's what we call due diligence. Due diligence is first information. You need to acquaint yourself with the first information. Are there squatters on this land? Has this land been sold to anyone? Who is living on that land?
So you understand what exactly is on the land, how that land measures, and who owns the land actually. Not every other person you find out and then they sell you the land.
That's true, exactly. There's even a judgment that land is not tomato or cabbage.
Yeah, that you go to the market and pick and then you take home.
And the physical, both, now due diligence is both physical and at the registry.
Then at the registry.
You go to the registry, you do your, of course, search, they give you a search report. After that, then you go on the physical land to check what is on the ground.
Okay.
Is there any temporary house? And if it is there, are there crops? Who owns them? And if these crops are there, someone owns them, what is their interest in that land?
Yes.
So after getting that, then you can go ahead and pay your what? Your land.
Buy
But you don't just go because the land is in a good location, it is cheap, you're excited and you buy. At the end of the day, you may end up losing your money. So you even find that if two of you are fighting over the same piece of land, now the law considers who came first.
Who came first?
But also in most cases you find that this person, the second person who bought this first one, okay, the law says, the court say the first person owns the land. Now you, the second one, you have lost your money. The only thing is to sue the other person who sold you the land.
Sold you the land.
You may find this person has run away, this person has used the money, and you end up losing your money. And also going to court is tedious. You find that you may end up losing money, and you may not recover what you've spent, and the time wasted.
Okay.
So those are all modalities that our people need to understand before they proceed with buying some of this land.
Okay. Now, you talked about the issue of the vibanja holders. You talked about squatters as well. Are these two people the same?
No, a squatter might be a licensee, if I may use it in a formal way. You know, I may have my land.
Yes.
And I just call you to come and stay on that land for a specific purpose. Now, you don't own land, you're not even a chivanja holder, you don't have an interest. A chivanja holder has an interest, what we call equitable, the one I mentioned before.
Yes.
Now, a squatter may not have any interest on the land.
But he's only using the land.
Yes, he's affiliated to the landowner. My relative might be
your friend.
A friend. So you end up using the land because of those benefits, interpersonal benefits you have, but you don't have an interest. So you find that you don't own the land. But also, you see, if you have been, if you've come on that land by virtue of this owner inviting you, then anytime you can be evicted. But there's also people who come on the land. Some people buy land and leave it vacant. Someone stays abroad, buys his land somewhere,
and leaves it there.
Leaves it there. So no one is using this land. Someone, a neighbor, can just suddenly begin to use this land without even knowing, or might be misled to begin using this land.
So what is the, what is the interest of that person who decides to just come and start using that land? What is their status on the same land?
Now, when this person stays 12 years on that land, without you, the owner, notifying them, leave my land, or without him knowing that actually this land is owned by so and so, then 12 years elapse. The person can acquire this land and it becomes his.
And then you lose it just like that.
And you lose it. If you don't have a clear evidence that actually this land, I notified him that this is my land, please leave it.
So they can just become owners of the same land and own it in perpetuity.
Yes, they take over the land. Now that's where the limitation of these actions usually. Of course, the person can even be a trespasser, because in most cases these squatters I'm talking about, if the license expires, they become trespassers on this land.
Yes.
But where there is no notice that this is my land, where there is no aspect that this person is aware that this land belongs to, for instance, Mr. Kato, and you are living abroad 15 years, 20, you come back to begin
and your land was unattended to, and people just came and settled on the same.
It can be taken over. And there are many examples of such where people have gotten land,
lost land
free of charge like that. Yes. And for you to recover, of course, you must take in a lot of time and money and so on.
Okay. So now there is an issue. I don't know if you understand some Uganda where they always say that the chivanja holders, okwewala. I don't know if you understand that word. Okwewala, that they have that right. You can be a chivanja holder and you are given that right, okwewala, and then you can. How does that come into, and how is it treated under the law?
Now, okwewala, if you have, if you're a chivanja holder on a specific land, when the owner wants to sell off this land, the first priority is to be given to the chivanja holders.
And then if you can mix, sorry for interrupting, if you can mix and speak some Uganda, you can also add it in for the interest of our viewers.
Okay. Now, if someone, omuntu agamba nti okwegula, kiba kitegeeza nti mubanga mubadde ku ttaka eryo nga you owning kibanja. temulina kyapa naye nga mulina bibanja ku ttaka eryo kiba kitegeeza nti ono nannyini watuukidde okufuna ettaka eryo assuming it is eka ng'emu nga buli mwali nako ku eka emu ndowooza kubaako katugambe kuliko abantu nga 8 ab'ebibanja nga baagala nga nannyini agatunda nga tayinza developinga lwa nsonga nti muliko oba yakigula nakituguza omulala n'agamba okay fine example giyinza okuwa yene Rusanje yali wano oyinza okwesanga nti omuntu aguze ettaka ate gwaliguzeeko yalinako abasenze ku ttaka eryo abaagulako so nowesanga nti nga tebasobola va ku ttaka eryo okubajjako you have to compensate them so nosalawo n'ogamba okay fine ekiriwo kambaguze mwegule and the first priority ligenda kwabo abakolaki abali ku ttaka eryo olina obagamba nti musobola okwegula banaye mwegule oba temusobola kwegula kandiguze omulala abasasule muveeko so wesanga nti muyinza okwekuŋŋaanyanga mmwe ababadde ku ttaka eryo abalinako ebibanja ne mugamba okay fine katukusasule sente bweziti nemwegula ekyapa ekyo nemukikyusa mu manya gammwe mwenna so nemumala nemuligabanyamu mutation buli omu natwalako katakatunduke
buli omu natwalako akamusaanira
keyagula of course nga osoboka afunamu ekyapa oba nemugamba nti okay akatundu kange tekawera kanyongerezeeko wali eri nga tewo nfuna ekyapa naye nga mumaze okwegula nga muliguze eri mumanya gammwe mwenna kati mutaka waliwo kye bayita co-ownership muyinza okuba muguze ekibanja egundi emu kyapa kimu muli bantu nga 8 amanya gammwe gonna gasobola ogendako ngaabakoze eki
ngaabananyini ttaka
nga bananyini naye olumaliriza ekyo nemutandika tukwegabanyamu nemugamba naye nze akange nkakoma wano
nebamugirako akapa kusinziira kiki naye kati bw'oyogera ku kintu ekyokwegula and you said it clear that the first priority is given to the banja holders kwegula before this owner of the land that title sells the land off. So what happens when this person sells the land without giving an opportunity to the banja holders? How is it treated under the laws?
No, these banja holders can dispute that sale. Reason one oyinza okusanga badde balinamu ku sente kwegula.
Nga balina obusobozi.
Yes, nga balina obusobozi. Because land, as I said, is a livelihood. Omuntu osanga developinze ettaka lye azaddeko n'abaana already. Kati gwe tomubuuzizza oba osobola okwegula ogenze bugenzi mu maaso n'osalawo n'ogenda n'oguza omulala nga yayagala kuzimbawo amaduuka n'ajja n'abagobawo. So wesanga ntayinza kola kitayinza gamba nti banaye kamba kisole sente zemukola kizemujjamu oba development ennyumba zammwe zemuzimbyeko. So kibeera legally olaba nti etteeka lijja nelyagala okuuma ono omuntu ono asooseewo ku ttaka eryo nimuwa priority esooka nti weegule.
So they are actually more protected on the lands that they occupy.
Actually you find that such people have rights next to the owner. Because the law protects the title owner.
Title owner, yes.
But the next protection is to these people who have what? Interest on land, equitable in nature.
Okay.
Yes, so that's basically how it operates.
So how is this dispute done? Is it through a cause of action in courts of law? Is it resolved amicably with the local authorities? How is it dealt with?
Ideally, you find that any dispute, you wouldn't advise people to run to court. Because court has its own limitations and people may not have money for courts. Courts are expensive. You know, when you go to court, lawyers have to charge you some money.
Legal representation.
Yes, you need
then
to hire.
You will overcharge them. And
unless you're a lawyer yourself, you represent yourself.
You can represent yourself.
But also, it's not advisable to be a doctor in your own cause. So
because you will have feelings in the same case, and then that's how you will end up messing up.
Yes, that's just the same thing. If you're a doctor, you cannot. So it will be ideal to hire a lawyer, and lawyers are a bit expensive. So you find that the first thing is always that's why we have ADR, alternative dispute resolutions. And this can be done between lawyers and these people. Also, to learn mugamba banaye chiro amazima bwega tigagana. Lwachi tetuwa netusotenga kitu kino mu ngeri bwe.
Kimaliriza at the local level.
Yes. So when all of them agree and you sit together and you agree, then you make it in writing. That's already a solution. Okay. In fact, most of these problems, land problems, you find that before you go, court is a last resort.
Last resort.
Where things are failing.
Mugenze mukutesaganya biganye. Nanyi nitaka ne yaligula oba owekibanja tebakkaanya ku kintu kyekimu then and you have failed to resolve them at a local level. That's when you can be.
Yes. That's why I find that ulemu agenda mu court nga yewaga.
Nagamba
nja kuwangula until the court decides nakakana nagamba kino ekintu era asigata amatide and they keep appealing.
They appeal and appeal.
Yes. That's usually the problem. But if people would really be understanding and resolve matters, no need of, and even these mediations, even if you engage a lawyer to mediate, yes, you find that it's a bit cheaper and not
compared
time
to
wasting.
litigation.
Yes, because land matters a bit, issues of locus visit and so on, and the courts are busy, so you find that it can take some time. And some clients actually tell you, and you cannot choose some of those things yourself, and you have to go with it. And the courts already sometimes bulk with work.
Yes,
these land matters take time in the court, but you're already having your land, you need to develop it. So you look at those aspects, you see how to, you sit on the same table, you can only go to court where things are failed. Okay. That's basically how you can go to court.
On almost a similar issue, counsel, I have had issues and instances where we have had LOCs involved in, should I say, the sale of land at some point, or trying, to give their decisions and what they think should have been done before dealing with this land. Maybe you can simply take us through this part and give us the limitations of the LOCs,
LOCs
while dealing with land.
LOCs are very important in land matters. Not to say that they should take part in the transactions of sale and so on. In any case, even if an LOC does not take part in the transaction, it can't invalidate the transaction.
Yes.
But because these are the presidents of our villages,
the small areas.
Yes, they are the first line of defense. They are the first line of defense in dispute resolution and so on. And also to be known that this person comes from my village, it is important for them to be engaged. But we've had scenarios where some LOCs will tell you, if you want to buy this land, I want this money.
Yeah, because I've had instances and I've had clients who were dealing with land that was actually registered. But when this client was selling his land, then the LOC was complaining how he did not stamp on the agreements. And then this raised a lot of concerns with the person who bought the land and how legal and valid how that sale was.
When you're registering land, what is required is for your lawyer to witness.
Okay.
Not an LOC.
Not an LOC.
Now, whether an LOC stamps or doesn't stamp is also witness. You can also bring any other witness. Because an LOC one will not, there is no invalidation of a land transaction because the LOC didn't stamp. But because of humanity, what is important is that you want to really be, as human beings, we need to be known in the areas where we stay. And you need to make an LOC one your friend. Sometimes, like I talk issues of nuisance and so on, you can talk to the LOC one, stop this. So these LOC ones can inform you on some of these things. So that's the basis upon which these LOCs work. But ordinarily, LOC, if you look at the Local Council Act, it talks about LOCs dealing basically in customary land.
Yes.
Not these other, and even their limitation is not that they should sell this land and do what. The purpose is for them to engage and know have the identity of their people, the people under their local limits.
Okay. But
not to enter into transactions, because even the courts dealing with the lands, there's what we call a jurisdiction in handling land matters in the law. It simply means that every court has a limit from which it starts to work. Now, basically, you find that if a land is 20 million and below, you usually initiate your proceedings in your action, or you sue in the magistrate's grade 1 court. Grade 1. Depending on the 50 million, you can go to chief.
Go to the chief.
Above 50 million, you can go to high court. Yes, basically. But there is no law which says that
you have to go to LOC 1.
If you buy land at 1 million, first go to the LOC 1 to resolve. And then when the man refuses, when you buy this land and LOC 1 refuses to stamp, you can't own your land. That's not there. Okay. But sometimes you can give an LOC. And it shouldn't be a kind of, when you say you should give one LOC something, that appears a bit...
Should not be a must.
It's not a must, it's just humanity.
Okay.
That this person has really wasted his time to be here, and two, he's elected in the village to lead this place. and he must be notified as the president. You know, these LC ones are presidents, they are judges, and they are the parliament in there.
They want to be honored everywhere.
Yes. So we have to give them a courtesy, but they should also be considerate when they are dealing in such transactions. They shouldn't impose so much restrictions on buyers.
Yeah, there is something I want you to explain to our viewers, Council, now, on the issue of where we have had cause of actions relating to matters of land registration. We have seen in most cases the plaintiff in the matter, or the person, the complainant, to make it simple for our viewers out there, have gone ahead to sue. Register of titles. Why are they actually causing an action against the register of titles, not a person who actually sold them land in the first instance? Because most of the times they deal with both. Yamuguze ttaka, then the register of titles. Why can't they finish it between themselves? Why is this one also involved at some stage?
Register wajiramu, or where the register is involved, it is basically on titled land. You cannot sue the registrar on Chibanja holder.
You are a Chibanja holder, but you want to sue the registrar of title.
Yes, the best thing is for you to sue the other one who has done
it. So our viewers out there must know, and they should know actually land.
So a registrar is sued in, there are basically many circumstances, but one, if land has been registered, assuming I go and buy my land, this is titled land, I transfer this land in my name. But you find that the title also, this land is sold to another person. This person transfers the land in his name.
Yes.
There are those instances whereby you find that I have a title in my name.
But somebody has a title in their name,
in his own
renting the same land.
Yes. Now, the alternative is for you to sue the other person who has transferred this land in his name, but also the person who transferred this name is the registrar.
Yes, so that's why
the registrar comes in. And you sue the registrar not because he orchestrated the fraud, no, but because they misled him perhaps, and he gave these titles in a mistake.
But the truth should be said that at some point even these registrars are involved in fraud.
I'm not sure of that, but if you have evidence, then you can actually sue them as they need involved. But such of things usually happen, that the registrar may give titles to two people, or even more. And also we can't rule out the fact that sometimes some registrars might be tempted to participate in such aspects. But the ones I think, they are really so much, they operate under the law, so I wouldn't want to say that they're involved in that.
Okay.
So you find that the purpose of you suing the registrar is to correct the record.
To correct the registration.
You sue him and let court make an order that the registrar reinstates the initial title holder in his own name. The second aspect where you sue the registrar can be, for instance, you've bought land. I've bought land from you. Well, let me say I've bought land from X.
Yes. In
the time of this land being, the title is still in his name. The transfer forms he has signed them. Or he hasn't signed the transfer forms. Now this person has died or the person has gone abroad. I can't find him. So I have to sue the registrar to compel him to put my name in the absentia of the other owner.
Okay.
Those are the circumstances where the registrar comes in question. And of course others. Basically, fraud is now broad.
Yeah.
Now fraud is broad. You find that when fraud is involved and land is titled, then the registrar, it is important to make sure that the registrar is put in the what? In the showroom.
Okay, thank you so much.
Because if you don't sue the registrar, then that means the man will have no powers to compel him. And the person who can compel him is the court. Yes.
He was not part of the proceeding. Thank you so much, Council. Now let us run into comments and read some questions here. Rogers asks, is nuisance still law? I see bars and churches everywhere that are not soundproofed, making noise almost everywhere in town. Who enforces this nuisance law? And also highlight for us what parameters or ingredients that make the offense of nuisance. For us local people, we may not know.
Now, nuisance is law. We don't have a nuisance act or whatever. Yes. But there's what we call, these are principles that are well known. They are called common law, basically, evolved from there. So we usually have principles. But the enforcement of nuisance is by the local authorities. Okay. KCCA has regulations that deal with the sound levels. But of course the problem is enforcement. You find that there's a limit under which this noise is supposed to be limited. And in fact, these bars, I think we even had, with the due respect, churches, they sometimes used to make noise too much at night.
Even at night, even everywhere.
So you find that the people can't sleep, people cannot have peace in their homes. But the regulation is there to limit such noise. Now the issue is about what? Enforcement. It will really be very prudent that you can actually sue KCA for that. If KCA has failed to do this work, you can sue them.
You can sue KCA.
Implement, yes.
To implement.
Because an entity that can be sued if they don't implement the regulations and laws they put in place. Yes.
So he was asking about some ingredients of this offense of nuisance.
Now, nuisance is not an offense per se. Okay, you may treat it as an offense, but you're not going to sue. If someone has committed nuisance, you cannot take it as a criminal in nature. Nuisance is basically civil. It's civil. And you may want, one of the issues is stoppage. You may want this person to stop the nuisance, but also where you feel that you're so much aggrieved, because nuisance has categories. So you find that you may also want to be compensated. Compensations. So you may go to court, one, for compensation, but also for stoppage of the what? Of the nuisance. Of the nuisance. So one of the basic things is that someone has interfered with your right. Maybe he has bought land, but whatever he's doing on his land affects you directly. So that effect that you're having, which is negative in nature, you don't like, that's what you're based on. It's one of, I can call the parameters under which you can assume.
Now this other viewer asks, I have heard council say that government can take over your land. What if I don't want compensation and all I want is my land? Can government take my land forcefully?
Yes, I think you've been... the view has been following up some previous debate where government was facing challenges. People refuse
the compensation they are giving them. Maybe citing issues of lesser compensation and undervaluing their land.
Yes. So they say the government one time came up and said that we first compensate you what we have or what we think is adequate. Then in the case of any claim you can come. Of course that it brought a lot of debate and noise within the public. But naturally there is law that this you cannot, if they discover minerals under your land, you can't claim that this land, it is law, it's taken over. That's the trend. So you can't say that me I don't want a government to take over my land. This land is mine, let me exploit my minerals myself. Because even exploiting these, everything is regulated by law. And in a society there must be law. And you can't be above the law. So when you're above the law, at the end of that day, the consequence is that you'll have to face it now with the authorities.
So maybe to add on his questions, what if I feel that the money that was given to me by government under compensation was less than the market value maybe, according to my thinking and, you know, the environment surrounding us? What is the remedy that is available for me?
Now, the available remedy is for to sue the government. You've had people sue the government every day. But see, that land which has been compensated is based on the chief valuers.
But this valuer is valuing on behalf of the government.
Yes. You can also get your private valuers. If you think that the chief valuer is not satisfactory, undervalued, you can also get your valuers, they value, and you sit together on the table, you compare notes, and you say, this value of my land is 10 billion. And you've given me 2 billion. What is the problem? Then
so
you can go to court.
Certification, where you are not certified,
you go to court.
You go to court and
government can be sued.
Okay.
And the courts can actually either stop what the government is doing, or they can direct the government
to compensate
adequately. It may not be the actual money you want, but it may be what the courts deem fit.
Okay. Yes. This one also asks, speaking of public interest, we have had a lacuna in compensation, especially when government is developing land for public use. What can people do legally to acquire the appropriate compensation in the event that the government is defaulting or undervaluing it? I think this has been answered. And this one asks Rogers, what is equitable interest? Fete tubitegeera.
Okay.
Menye mpola mpola so that
Chitwita owning, how do you say owning? Owning land is okufuna ettaka nga liryo. mu mateeka nimukufuna ettaka nga liryo now equity. I don't know how to put equity in Uganda, but I believe, let me explain to you that in simple English. Let me break it down.
Simplify it.
Now you can own land both. You can have a legal interest, but you can also have what we call equitable interest. Legal interest simply means you have title. Now if you look at section 59,
your interest in the land is registered.
Yes. If you look at section 59 of the Registration of Titles Act,
yes,
or what we basically call the RTA.
RTA.
If you title it is complete ownership. No one can what?
It is indefeasible.
Ogule moroka yo ngerimu card yayo. Ngerimu manyago.
That is legal. You have a legal interest.
That's a legal interest.
Land.
Yes. Or na title. Unechiraga nti nitakali yangi. Katugezo olina ID yo, national ID yo, ekulaga nti ndi muna Uganda. Kiba kitegeza teri agenda kuvaayo agambe nti naye musajja gwalika tuli muna Uganda tukunoonyerezeeko passport ye eriwa, visa eriwa.
Olwokuba olina ID eraga nti ono muna Uganda.
Oli muna Uganda.
Yes.
You can even go and do other things. For instance, if you want to apply for jobs, you can put your ID and so on.
Yes.
Or your passport. If you want to travel out, of course you put your passport. That's now what shows you're Ugandan. Naye katugeze embeera nga tolina ID, tolina passport, oyagala kuluma Uganda.
Naye ng'oli muna Uganda.
Oli muna Uganda. The first thing they will first ask is, human, where are your details? Fine, tukitegeera.
Oli muna Uganda.
Oli mulugavu ngaffe, oyogera Oluganda bulungi. In fact, weddira n'okweddira oli Muganda. Naye ID eriwa. Oli muna Uganda gwe. You get it? That's what we call equitable. So weesanga nti oguze ekibanja kyo, naye tolina kiraga nti olina ndagaano. Endagaano erina mu Luganda. It is signed by IOC1. So tolina title. Weesanga nti at the end of that day, olina endagaano eraga nti ttaka waligula. Naye ekyo si kyekiraga nti ttaka liryo.
Techimala.
Owning land is not by agreements, n'okutuula ku ttaka awo n'okuzimba kayumba.
N'okwekubyako ebifaananyi.
Kwekubya ebifaananyi ku ttaka nedda. It's having title in your name.
Yes.
Now that's what we call legal interest. Legal interest. Then equitable is this one. Nga gwe tolina kikwogerako naye nga of course olina ebiraga nti wagula. Naye nga tonafuna kyapa. Naye nga olina ebiraga nti ttaka liryo wagula.
Tunafuna national ID kweri ettaka.
Kweri ettaka
kyanguye.
Okigonzezza tonafuna national ID ku ttaka eraga nti liryo gy'ekyapa. So awobeera equitable owner.
Obera mune interest naye.
Obera interest equitable. Teri registered.
Those are what we call equitable interest.
Yes, kyekyo.
Okay.
Akitegedde.
Kati awo akitegedde ndowooza. Bw'aba takitegedde ajja kuddamu wano. Neno naabuuza, what is the status of those who refuse to get kyapa mu ngalo?
Naawe obeera ku ttaka lya Kabaka, kyapa mu ngalo ogenda ku Buganda Land Board.
Yes.
Be bavunaanyizibwa ku kyapa mu ngalo. So ogaana omuntu wakugamba lino ttaka lyange oba katugeze opangisa ennyumba. Just twale nti opangisa nyumba. Era londa akugambye waisasula rent. Ogambye sijja sasula rent. Okyasigala mu nyumba ya landlord.
Abajja kugo.
Era ajja kugamba nkwale naku bbiri fulumya nyumba yange. Kyekibeera mu bwangu.
So that is the status of these people who refuse to get kyapa mu ngalo. Yes. Anytime they can be settled.
And actually kyapa mu ngalo they can even cancel. It's like lease. Oli abeli nagamba nakuwa kyapa mu ngalo kya myaka 10 naye nekyusizaamu myaka 5.
Oba nakikuwa okolereko kino naye okyusiza bye twakana.
Akyo nyinza okuwa example oti olabe wandege yawo.
Yes.
Waliwo Haji awuninga almost ndowooza yafooba simanyi bulungi. Haji oyo yali mututumufu nnyo. Yagaba lease ku mataka gaawo ewandege yawo. Era ne bazimbako amayumba. Akade we kagwayo n'agamba nze I can't give lease anymore. Leave my land. And of course when you leave, bizime bisigala bibyo ngonanyi nitaka.
Yes.
So that's why the man became so rich in one day.
Obusibufere kanso.
Obusibufere kubanga lease nga bwe kiri nti wojja ku kibanja kyange oba ku ttaka lyange. Nenkuwa lease ya myaka 5 oba myaka lease ebeera mu odd numbers.
Yes.
Nenkuwa 15. Nezigwako nekugamba waye nze sikyakwongera liizi nze nkomyawo yakola birala then tosobola kumenyayo mayumba
byolese ku ttaka byonna bifuuka byange.
Maybe we can talk with you nekugamba waye kankuweyo kagundi era wengaana ojja genda mu kooti gye gyosala ebisigadde
egambe liizi ya expiringa tokyalina buyinza kwera ettaka.
Yes.
So that's how you end up losing. nze mbuyise obufere ekibuzo ekirala kigamba I thought titles are registered, so how can a registrar be ignorant of an existing land title so as to give it to another person? Aren't there records?
But I think Michael, the viewer has been following up some of these things. I don't work in land registry, so I wouldn't want to say that.
But you have the legal knowledge and you can.
Yeah, but what I know is that titles exist. You can find two names on the same title. If you look at land in, I think Mukono has been notorious.
Mukono and Wakiso.
Mukono and Wakiso. Yes. There was even a time the Minister of Lands had to issue directives regarding the lands in Mukono.
The transfer of land.
Yes. It even stopped all transactions on that land.
Even the offices, I think, in Wakiso were closed for some time.
Yes.
Land offices.
Yes. No, that is the. I think that answers him well. That things do happen. Things do happen. You don't know how they happen, but things can happen.
This is a part of Africa. The unexpected happens. Like
but the most important thing is how do you remedy them? That's usually how you talk about it.
Okay, this one asks, can government accept my private valuation? They come determined and sure that the land is government.
No, you cannot.
Valuing the same land.
You can't choose your own valuer. No government is depending on my valuer, because the chief government valuer values land, yes, and advises the government to compensate you, basing on his wisdom that this land amounts to this value. Kati gobo wakana ogamba anedda no value alabika alimba. You just bring your value up purposes of seeing the actual value of this land. Ogamento kali comparing notes. Ogamento mwaga kumpa bukade bubiri naye netaka lino bukade 10. Then you go to court. Then of course court will say, okay, we will look at this value. This is the, you know, land appreciates. Itakayongera mu bei.
Yes, it appreciates almost.
Yes, it appreciates every day, if I may use that word. So you find that you may find the land which was 10 million last year can be 30 million this year.
The same example can be about the people in the oil fields, who were, I think the valuation was done about 5 years ago, and then they are compensating them now. And we look at the value, the market value of the same land appreciating almost every day. So now how are they considered?
Now,
do we consider the market rate of 2015 when they...
You may find that the government may not usually... You see, the process of valuation takes time.
Yes.
The government is willing to start up a project on this land here, and it comes and values today. But also you find that the government doesn't have its own money, doesn't... Tegama nakozoka savings walimu DFCU bank, kangenenzi gionzi kue. It bases on the taxes you people pay, and the money that is available. So and the budget, of course, device. So wesanga nti government ena sente kuluno oba nekuwako kitundu oba negamba katukuwe buli omwaka ogudako mu budget eyeddako kubanga it has to apportion this money. So wesanga nti it will pay you basing on the value it had gotten before. Yes. Kati wona agamba nti you valued my land 5 years ago naye kati currently onsasula ne sente sizezo. That needs to lengthen, and it causes bureaucracy, and the government can't do work. So usually you can, it compensates basing on the values. And when government values land, we've had situations whereby government ekola engudo.
Yes.
There are people who, this land was way back in 2006-7. That's when it was valued. Bamuta banafuna sente paka nakati. Nengo mtu akugamba nti sente nzagala ncha. Bampe sente. So there's a lot of bureaucracy and the procedures in getting this money. You don't just get money from Ngabona's young Messiah, no government. There are procedures, and you know, government, parliament appropriates this money. The budget, they have to make sure that this year we are compensating this amount. You can't just give like that. And many people have claims of such.
Okay, I think we read this last question as time is not our friend. Rita asks, am I allowed to demolish my property on the land once my lease expires?
No, whatever is on land amounts to land.
Becomes part
of land. Wozime kizime nga kino nga nakuwa lease. No lease negwako nenga no jongerayo. Then tosola jimenyo. Kujja nga tukanyiza. Nti ojja kumenya kizimbe kyo nze ntekewe kyange.
Nze ntekekwe kyange.
Newe mbanga sagala okole gundo kimenyo then owo menye teka. You've interfered with my land.
So ndowooza oyo kyalina okumanya era n'okuyiga kiri nti the time your lease expires then you have no interest on the same land.
Yes, you have an interest.
Naye kati bwe mbala nti my lease was for 15 years nenzimbawo ebizimbe byange but in the 14th year I decide and get tired and I decide to demolish it. Is it legally binding about me or I can be penalized for demolition?
No, in most cases
when my lease has not yet expired.
When you of course goso chimenya kubanga ekizimbe kyo you can even claim, actually it's a smarter way, you can claim that, you know what, I want to put a new project. This one can say chaliwo.
No bimenya.
So nazimba we miziko jange buli wansi so nya take off flat buno kambo menyewo. Now in that period when you're having land, you have what you have exclusive ownership and possession. So solo kola chonashona choyagala biseera ebyo. Niyo buzibulinga weddeko.
So webe chaliko nache you can demolish that land when your lease has not yet expired, but once it expires then you lose interest.
But also when you toyinza ebintu ebimu olina okuba musmart, toyinza gamba nti kati okikole ngoli amanyi nti era ojjawulo kwa lizu egenda kugwako. Abamba izo chikola with that ill intention nti kakati mbiza emyezi mukaaga kambimenyewo. And of course you can't construct kati omwezi omwaka ogenda lizu egwako myezi ngesatu emenyewo bizimbe. Tolaba nti and you have already an agreement that you're not renewing this lease. So automatically you find that ojja kubeera okola ki olesemu amagezi mangi era omuntu ajategeera. But the best important thing usually is that this leases you agree, and when you're drafting the lease agreement you must also have such future events. Now obala nti kino kinabaawo tunakola tutya. So that's why you have to be so keen nga tunakola ki kuyingira mu lease. You don't just enter. You first of all study the environment. No gamma, this is what I want. Okay,
in a few minutes that left to end our show, I think you will give us some of the solutions to, to stop these disputes on land, and then we can call it a show today. Okay.
Now, the solutions available, we've actually been highlighting some of them.
Yes, some of them.
Avoiding a solution in most cases is when you're buying land, and there's a problem also. Actually, one thing we should talk about, there are these people, girlfriend and boyfriend, who live together. Tona wasa muntu. Abantu bano tegera nti obanga tona wasa muntu. Or even that's not your wife.
Yes.
So muyinza okola mwena at the end of that day naye nga one time omusajja azuuka n'agamba waayi eva mu nyumba yange nga wateeka muki sente zo
you contributed.
So what the most important thing, the formal way is that you should record down your contribution. Because at the end of the day, anything can happen in a relationship.
Yes.
Means okayana mukolachi, so to inza gena mukoti. Kubanga oguze katugambe, olino omukyala kato, this is your girlfriend. You bought land of 30 million, atadeko million 10, atadeko million 2. Ninga teri kiraga nti atadeko. Ekyapa kiri muki mu manyago. So at the end of the day, gwe nanyini ttaka. Yes. You can wake up one morning and say, Madam, I'm sorry, please leave my home. So it's most important is that you put such things, bulichogula, noting it down, and make sure you also what? Now, so there are solutions when you're buying this land, make sure you never do due diligence to Gambia. Tegere chidi kutaka. Gena maso soko buze to papa kusasula sente. Wabula soko tegere nti tewali bukumpanya wano. There's no fraud. Then when you buy it, you can have sometimes etake yoribanga liliko ekyapa kyawamu. Nga okimanyi nti maybe bayinza okola ki? Bayinza onanyinza okwekyusa anytime. You caveat it. You can caveat the land. Then okulaga nti ninako sina title ne ninako interest.
Ninako interest mutake.
So between the period before you register that land, caveat the land yoribanga liliko title. The caveat ejja kulaga ku register ejja ku reflect ne title. Actually they register the caveat on the title itself. So it is an encumbrance. Eraga nti ettaka eryo gundi yateeka ku caveat naye alinako interest. So tera ayinza kigula.
Okay. As you conclude, Council, you can give your closing remarks.
And the other last thing would be, the last thing is always register your land in your name. That's the most important thing. Kasiri ate malaga gula mataka olwokubanga you want to be a landlord ogozeka 40 by 20. So you get something adequate
that can be registered.
Yes, at least don't look at the temporary time. Look at a future event. if anything happens, this land will still be mine. So abana bange bajasikira like that.
Okay, thank you so much, Council, for your time and honoring our invitation. I hope we shall get some other time and invite you for the same. This is the Alternative Digitalk, streaming live on our pages, the Alternative Uganda and Digitalk TV. Later on, our show is uploaded on our YouTube channel, the Alternative Uganda. Follow us, comment, and invite people. Share the same knowledge to the rest of the people out there so that they can also learn a few things that we have been able to discuss that are helpful. Sharing is caring, and knowledge to one doesn't solve the problems, but when you share the same knowledge, it can be used to solve and keep people knowing what they are supposed to do, and that's how we can build a better Uganda. I am Kato Tumtsime hosting Tekachi today, and we shall have our usual programming as they go on. See you next Tuesday and have a lovely afternoon.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.